I went to a number of security conferences in Europe where serious people who really don't like Russia, from NATO, from the Baltic countries especially, and from Germany around the Baltic Sea, really talking about, together with colleagues from Kiev who worked in think tanks, economists from Kiev, how can we stop these shadow ships in the Baltic on what excuse? And the Europeans always said, look, it's just we don't have the legal right. We stop them, and later on they'll take it to court, and it'll be embarrassing. Now, the Americans have gotten around this by saying, these aren't legal ships. They're changing their flag. That means it's not clear who they belong to. If there's a ship that doesn't have clear ownership, under the UN conventions, you can seize that ship, okay? And that's what the Americans are doing. They've done it with ships that were headed for Venezuela. But clearly they were willing to confront Russia. One of these ships thought by quickly changing its flag and heading to the North Atlantic and saying, we're Russian, and Putin warning to leave it alone and sending a Russian submarine to escort it. That didn't stop the Americans. They sent sub-hunting planes to shadow the whole thing and then landed and put troops on and took the ship, special forces. So this opened the door, I think, opened the eyes of the Europeans for another way to do these things. And the French have started by seizing one or two ships. And so this is a new tool. But I want to emphasize it's only one tool in a whole game plan that started last April. And I'll just list quickly for you, if you don't mind. That game plan included basically forgetting the oil price cap, aiming to take Russian barrels offline. So first, it was the American CIA and American logistics military people in the New York Times. This was all developed together to the current campaign against Russian refineries and ports. And so that's been done with American assistance. Now, that's quite interesting. The prior Biden administration and early Trump administration said, please don't hit the ports, please don't hit refineries, because we got to keep Russian oil online. This marked the change I'm talking about. Number two, the Americans started putting real tariffs and real sanctions on the exports of oil. Here in Europe, everybody, basically in the think tanks, and many lower officials told me, no way will Trump, no way can the United States ever stop India from taking Russian oil. He's too close to Modi. Modi is too close to Putin and to Xi Jinping. Well, they did it. And the agreement was actually, as I show in my paper, the agreement was actually reached in October. And Trump said it's going to take Modi a little while, but Modi agrees. Okay, and the other aspect, as soon as he got off the phone, and this is according to the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, who was sitting there at the time when he got done talking to Modi in October, he said, get me MBS on the phone. That is to say, get me Mohammed bin Salman, the leader of Saudi Arabia. And what Doug Burgum says, he said to him is, hey, Modi's agreed to stop taking Russian oil. It's going to take him a little while, but we got a market for you. This is your market you can take back, okay? And so the American administration has been working together with the Saudis, the UAE, and so forth, together with the Indians now and others to actually take the oil offline. And you look at it, Russian oil right now is getting to a point where it has nowhere to go. The Druzhba is at about 100%. They're pumping from those fields. The Ukrainians hit the refineries and they can't refine all the oil, so they put it in the pipeline to export. Now, Rosneft is sanctioned, Lukoil is sanctioned, India is not taking oil step by step. They don't have no place to put it. Many of the ships they're putting the oil on have no destination. And the amount of oil floating on the water, Russian oil floating on the water, is up by about 50% since a few months ago. And they're trying to store some oil in Indonesia. The point is they're at the breaking point. It's like a balloon that's going to pop. And if there's not another outlet, if other outlets are cut off, it can pop. And then in the wintertime, they're going to have to shut off fields, old fields in West Siberia, and they will be ruined. Okay. And that's what's really, I think, on the energy front, that's what Lavrov feels. If they don't make nice in these negotiations, do something reasonable, and they fail, either Trump will approve the Senate bill, Lindsey Graham and the Republican, and Mr. Blumenthal, the Democrat, have 93 senators, they say, who will vote 500% tariffs, give Trump permission, 500% tariffs on any country that's buying Russian oil. It's incredible. Or Secretary of the Interior has briefed the Europeans well over a month ago that they have a whole set of new sanctions that would do something similar. So look at it as Russia is pumping this oil. It can't get it out. There's nowhere to go. And they can't really shut off these fields. They're not like ordinary fields. They're in the tundra. They're in Siberia. They're very old. If you shut them off fast, they'll be ruined long term. And this will undermine the petrostate. And that's the American aim, actually, longer term. Whether Trump will pull the trigger on that, of course, we wait and see. But he's set everything up for that situation.
Dr. O'Donnell, but what is, since you touched India, when I look at India, it seems like I don't really understand what their line is about. I feel like India is quite pro-Russian, let's be honest. I don't want to be delusional. But it seems like they are saying to Washington, yes, okay, we will not buy Russian oil. They're saying, yes to Russia, we're going to buy your cheap oil. So what is their main strategy and line here today?
Well, in the most general terms, I think one has to understand India is primarily pro-India.
Oh, okay.
And in a certain sense, the elites in a certain sense, the elites in India, they don't care. If there's a fight between Russia and the United States, how can we take advantage and get cheap oil? Okay. So everybody said it was going to be impossible. I talked to diplomats who had been there for years when they came back, and they said, there's no way I can see the Indians doing this. So, okay, when Trump said, okay, 85% of the oil Russia was exporting was going to India and China. A certain amount was going to Turkey. But 85% to those two countries is clear. You got to cut first one off, then the other. So the Americans went after the lower hanging fruit. They went after India. And India had a lot of vulnerabilities. It does a lot of trade with the United States. Now, it's not huge volumes of trade as far as percentage-wise, but it's high-tech stuff. And they actually have their people go to the United States and work in their high-tech sector, services and so forth. This is really important for India's future. So Trump said, hey, you either stop buying Russian oil or 25% extra tariffs. You already have 25%. There are all sorts of Indian companies that had to find someplace else to work. I mean, they had a real problem. So I think Trump understood that Modi at home, he could not act like, okay, Mr. Trump, he can't kowtow to Trump. He's got to act the big man. So he went right away and met Xi Jinping and Putin and talked the big man. We do all these things together with you guys. And he came back and Trump called him twice. And it's interesting. The first time he called him, he said he had basically a deal with Modi. And immediately this is in early October, immediately the Indian Foreign Office said, there was no phone call. We never even talked to him. Who's he? Okay. That's how sensitive it was. But here's what happened. After Modi went around with Xi Jinping and Putin and made this show, we're going to do more with you. When Putin visited, by the way, he actually didn't give him much of any contracts. Trump called him again, and Trump saw he had to give him a way out. Trump had already in his pocket the sanctions against Rosneft and Lukoil, but they hadn't been announced. So I'm quite sure what he said on the phone call is, look, I know you can't say I'm going to obey Trump and not take sanctions. That looks bad for you at home. You'll never get elected again. But I'm going to put sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil. That's most of where it comes from. So you can turn around and say, it's not me. They sanctioned these things. If we take it, our banks are going to be in big trouble. It's not me. Trump got me here. Okay. And that's the way it happened. And as soon as he got off the phone from that call, Trump, what I explained earlier is what happened. Burgum said he called up MBS, he called up the Saudis and say, okay, we're ready. You start thinking about taking the Indian market. And actually Saudi Arabia and UAE started giving discounts on oil to India and China. They do want to take that market back. This has been a source of tension with the Russians dumping cheap oil there for a long time. So Trump saw what was going on. In the end, Modi doesn't look so bad. It's not like he gave in, but effectively he can't take the oil. So he finessed it. And in actuality, the flow to India is going way down. And the Chinese, of course, are now telling the Russians, well, you want us to still take it, you're going to have to give another discount. And the Russian oil is getting really discounted. So less of a market, much more discounted, nowhere to put a lot of it. They got to keep pumping it. They can't turn off the fields. They're putting it on ships, storing it in Indonesia. Another hit's going to be bad for them, I think.